We are up to chapter 30, verse 25. Chapter 30, verse 25. Chapter 30, page 335 in that book. 335 in that book, Josh. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 30, verse 25. Vayihi kasher yalda Rachel et Yosef. When Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Vayomer Yaakov el Lavan. Jacob says to Lavan, Shalcheni, send me out. And I'll go to my place and to my homeland. So chapter 30, verse 25, page 335, 335. So let's see what Rashi says. When Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Misha Noad Sitano Shel Esav. It means here, Rashi says that Jacob saw that Esav and his descendants would only fall by the hand of Rachel's offspring. So Joseph was the nemesis of Esav. So when Joseph was born, the nemesis of Esav was born. As it states, Vaya Beit Yaakov Eish, or Beit Yosef Lehava. The house of Jacob will be fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. Ubeit Esav Wakash. And the house of Esav will be straw. Eish below Le'ava, Eino Sholet Elam L'merechok. Fire without a flame does not have effect over a long distance. Misha Noad Yosef. So once Joseph was born, Batach Yaakov Bakadosh Baruch Hu V'ratzali Lashuv. Jacob trusted that he now had a way to defeat Esav, and that was through Joseph. So he said, I'm going to go back to Canaan. All right, I'll see you soon, John. Travel safely. Okay, verse 26. He says, Hina et Nashai. He says, take my wives, Vet Yoadai, and my children, Asher Avadati Otcha, that I worked for you, Bahan Ve'elecha, and I will go. Ki ata yadata et avodati asher avaticha. Because you know, you're aware of my work. You're aware of my work that I've done for you. See what Rashi says. He says, take my wives, any rotzel etzeit. I only want to leave Kim Bereshut. Meaning to say, he says, Jacob was saying, I only want to leave if you give me permission. You could have read it, give me my wives, as saying you're holding them kidnapped, but that's not what he was saying. He's saying, I only want to go if you give me permission. That's what Jacob was saying to Lavan. Vayomer Lavan. And so Lavan said to him, Imna matzati chen beinecha. Lavan said to Jacob, if I find favor in your eyes, v'nichashti v'yivarcheni Hashem b'glolecha. So Lavan said to Jacob, if I find favor in your eyes, I've learned through nichush. Nichush is divination, that Hashem has blessed me on account of you. Rashi says, Menachesh haya, Lavan was a diviner. Who else was a nichush? We know that later on Joseph was a nichush. So Lavan said to Yaakov, Nisiti b'nichushali.
Joseph was just pretending, no?
Yeah, but I'm saying, but he was pretend. But he said he may believe he was in Menachesh. Divination, that you could tell the future. Yeah, where is that? He said, where is the verse about Joseph? It says,
Parshat Miketz.
I know, but where is the pasuk?
The very, very end, because that's when he does the trick with Benjamin. Yeah,
Yeah, he says, I'm a nichush, I'm a sorcerer.
But I'm
Right. He says, don't you know that I'm a nachesh? Don't you realize that I'm a menachesh? Presumably, Lavan was also not a menachesh. He was just pretending. So just like Joseph was pretending, they're both people who were pretending to be nichush. There is a similarity.
you
Oh,
don't
good
you don't
afternoon.
believe
Thanks
that
for being
Lavan
here.
was evil enough to do that?
To be successful? No, I don't
Isn't
believe
he
it.
the spiritual progenitor of Balaam?
Definition of
Mm.
good or evil thing in Judaism.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's the divination.
It's a bad thing. It's prohibited.
It's prohibited.
Joseph was just bluffing. But the question is whether Lavan could really do it. But there's no evidence that he was ever able to do it. There's no evidence. So anyway, Lavan says, "Hello, Aviva. It's a nasty day out there, but you made it." So he says, I nisiti benichushali. Lavan says, I found out through my divination. I found out shayadcha bali bracha, that through you I was blessed. What does that mean? Keshabata when you came here, lo ayuli banim. I had no children, as it says, or I know sons. Vinei Rachel bito ba'amatzon, because it says Rachel came from the field, his daughter with the flock. If he had sons, why would he have sent his daughter? Now he had sons. As it states, God heard the words of Lavan's sons. Okay, so that proves that he had no sons before, and now he has sons. Because the text says in chapter 31 he has sons. So that's what he's saying, that you're the source of my blessings to have sons. Now, Viva, we're in chapter 30, verse 28. Vayomar, and this is a very, very, very difficult passage. This is probably the most difficult passage for me to understand in the Torah, is the passage coming up. And he said, Nakvas charcha alai v'atena. So Lavan says to Jacob, specify your wage for me, and I will give it to you. Ketargumo, paresh agar ag rach. Specify your wage. Verse 29. Vayomer elav, he said to him, Atayadata, you know etasher avaticha, you know that which I've done for you. Veitasher ayamik nechaiti, you know that which I've done for you, and what your livestock were with me. Rashi says, means at cheshbon miut miknacha. You know how little livestock you had. Shabal yadim mitzchila kama. You know how little I had at the beginning and how much there are now. You know the difference. Yes, Jerry.
Yes. Why do you say that short pasuk bothers you?
No, not that pasuk. This narrative of Jacob with the flock is very hard to actually understand. That's what I'm saying. This passage coming up is I find it very complicated.
Okay.
Not that one verse, but many verses.
Okay.
So he says, okay, hold on one second. Okay, so he says, Vayomer Elav, he says to him, so you know how I worked for you. Verse 30. There was very little sheep before me. No, you had very little before me, Vayifrot Sarov, and now you have a lot. Vayivarach Hashem otcha l'ragli. God blessed you when I came. Rashi says l'ragli means because I showed up. But now I need to do something for my own home. Rashi says, now I need to do it for my own home with tzarach beiti, for my own purposes. Achshav eino sin l'tzarchi. Now eino sin l'tzarchi ela banai. Now there are none who work for my needs except for my sons. V'tzarchani liot oseh gam ani mahem l'samchan. And I also have to work with them to support them. That's what it means also. Okay, so basically Jacob's saying, I need to do stuff for my own sons. Verse 31. Vayomer, and he said, Ma tein lach, what can I do for you? Vayomer Yaakov, and Jacob said, Lo titein li me'uma, don't do anything for me. If you do this thing for me, Ashuva eretz oncha eshmor. If you do this matter for me, I'll return and I will graze your flock and I'll guard them. This is all I want. So now is where it gets a little tricky. This is where it gets a little tricky. He says, this is all I want. That's what he said. He didn't get anything. He worked for Rachel and Leah. He got the wives. Suppose he needs a little bit more. He's got all those mouths to feed. He's got 11 boys and 1 girl to feed. By the way, I just want to say also at this point, those of you who are tuning in, that tomorrow I'm not going to do it, or Thursday. So this will be the last time we have the Rashi this week. And I'm not sure about Sunday either. So that will stay tuned. So he says, verse 32. This is where it gets tricky. Excuse me. So Joseph says, let me go through all your sheep today, Hayom, Haser Misham, and I want you to take out from there, Kol Sed Nakud V'Talu. I want you to remove from there every lamb that is speckled or talu. Well, we'll see what talu means. Patchy, large spots. V'Kol Sech Humbak Savim, and anything that's brown. V'Talu V'Nakud Ba'izim. So I'm going to go through the lambs, and anything amongst the sheep anything amongst the sheep that is nakud v'talu, anything amongst the sheep that's speckled and patched, spotted, and anything that's brown amongst the sheep, v'talu v'nakud be'izim, and anything that is speckled and patched amongst the goats, vayas sechari, that'll be my wage. So it's a little bit tricky. What exactly is going to be his wage? So is his wage going to be what Lavan removes, or everything that remains from what Lavan removes? And what does it mean? This reference to kol sechum baksavim, everything that's brown? That seems to be something that's only to the sheep. So let's see what Rashi says. Nakud, anything that's minumar, dotted, becharburot dakot, with fine spots. In French, it is pointeur, a point. Vitalu, lashon talai, means a patch. Chavar burot rechavot, wide, large spots. Chum, anything that Rashi says shechum is auburn. Domela adom, similar to red. Hashom mishnah, shechamtit v'nimtzit levana. Minyana tefillah. V'ayas charin, this will be my wage. Otan sheyivaldu, those which will be born, Those which will be born will be Mikanu Abba. So what's going to be basically way Rashi explains it, that what he's saying is take out all these animals that are spotted and patched, and from now on, whatever is born spotted and patched will be my wages. This is what Rashi says. Usually, those which will be born from now on, which will be speckled and patchy amongst the goats, or auburn amongst the sheep, so usually will be mine. But wait, before I go on, there's a dispute what Rashi means. We have here in the footnote, according to Divrei David and Nachos Yaakov, Rashi does not mean that, because the pasuk is ambiguous, Rashi does not mean that Jacob was to take only the sheep that have the single quality of being auburn. He means that Jacob would take those sheep which were auburn in addition to those which were speckled and dappled. But according to Ramban and most of Rashi's other commentators, it means that Jacob would take sheep which were completely auburn, but not those which were speckled and dappled, meaning exact opposites. So nobody's really sure what Jacob was taking. And then on top of that, it says those which are now currently speckled, I want you to separate, put them to your sons. That you won't say, oh no, you won't say that anything that's born from now on, that they were there at the outset. I don't want you to also accuse me of saying genetically I got them from the males that were spotted and patchy, and that's why we now have them. So separate them so the females won't be able to mate from them, and they won't be able to, have those genetics. That's what Jacob is saying. Take out just leave me with non-brown, non-speckled, non-patchy sheep, and now whatever is born like that will be mine.
Other brown, and how would they be born?
So how are they going to be born? We're about to see Jacob's maneuver. Jacob has maneuver to get them to be speckled and spotted and brown. Jacob's going to do this little trick. Yes, Rabbi Yosef.
I just wanted to say that this machloket about Rashi reflects exactly what Jacob was feeling. That Laban himself changed it all the time. So that's maybe why the Torah wrote it ambiguous, because already from the beginning he knew that there was going to be trickery on both sides, and that he'll suffer either way. Whatever he tries to do, Laban will do a counter maneuver. So
it's very possible that Jacob's intentionally ambiguous. But that's like a cynical reading of it. But okay, fair enough. Rabbi Yosef Shkoyach. So now, what does he do at this point? What? Genu Vasi? We're not up to that yet, but yeah, that phrase can also be read, I am the thief. But you're right about that. You're exactly right about that. So hold on. Hello. Hello, Binyamin. Shkoyach. Okay, is that ready for? Oh no, we're still a little early. We can study. Okay, so now what does he do? So the pasuk says, we're up to pasuk 30, Lama Gimel. Va'anta bi sidkasi biyom machar. Jacob says, let my integrity be my test tomorrow. Ki tavo al schari lefanecha. When I'm going to come to collect my wages, kol asher einenu nakud v'talu ba'izim v'chum ba'ksavim ganuv hu iti. Anything that's not speckled and patchy amongst the goat or auburn amongst the sheep will be is stolen with me. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Hold on, let me see how I can do this. What happened was my wife was nervous because she saw my car on the road and she said, "Did somebody steal your car?" So I said, "No, we lent it to our friend John. He went to pick up his son from school, and now he's coming back here." So she sees the car. So she's eagle eye, making sure nobody stole my car. You know, always. See, I normally don't pick up a call if I'm getting a call, but when my wife calls, I pick it up, as I should, right? So okay, so that, and we're talking about stolen, and that's what my wife calls me, because Jacob says if I have any of these sheep, then you could assume that I stole them. That's what he says. He says, "Im techashteni shani otam mishachakum." If you're going to suspect me that I'm taking something from you, taneh bitzikasi, my integrity will testify for me. Kitavot tzikasi, my integrity will come v'ta'id al schari lefanecha, and testify to my reward. Shalot timsa be'adri ki im nikudim utluim. You're only going to find in my herd speckled and dappled. V'kol shetimsa behen she'enu nakud. Anything you find amongst them that's not speckled or dappled, ochum, bi'adua sheganavtu lacha. You know that I stole it. Ubegnevu sharoyetzli, and I got it from theft. Basically, he says, so Jacob is saying, everything, take my flock, but from whatever is going to be born, I'm only going to have the next, I'm only going to have the patchy ones. I'm not going to have anything that's not it will belong to you from the next generation. But it's a little tricky because he said he separated all the ones that were patchy and brown. So that means he has ones that aren't. But now he's saying anything that's born will only be mine. Any patchy or brown ones. So Lavan agrees to this deal. Vayomer Lavan Hain. Lavan says, indeed, I agree with you. Rashi says, Lashon Kabbalat Dvarim. He accepts it. It will only, if only it will be as you say. Halavai shetachpotz becha. If only you will want this. Vayas, so okay, verse 35. Vayaser bayomahu et atiyashim hakudim vatuim et kol ha'izim hanekudot vatuot kol asher lavan bo kol chum b'ksavim vayitem biyabanav. And he removed on that day all the tiyashim. So this is all the rams or the he-goats that were akudim vatulim, that were spotted and speckled. That's ko'izim, and all the goats, anekudot v'tulot, v'ko asher lavanbo, and all the white ones, v'ko chumbak savim, and anything brown amongst the sheep, vayitem biyad banav, and he put them in the hands of his sons. So this is a little confusing, because also we have Lavan in there who's white. So that's another color mixed in. Ko asher Lavan bo. She says he removed Lavan bayomahu. Lavan removed on that day. Okay.
I'm not sure what Yaakov said to take all the speckled and spotted and keep the rest and everything that's born, or because that's not
He took some extra stuff, it seems. Yeah. No, he was supposed to take those things and separate them, but it seems like there's more than that he took. Okay, we'll do one more pasuk and then. Oh, hold on, people. So, Vayasem derech shloshet yamim beino ben Yaakov, and he separated 3 days between him and Jacob. Yaakov roet son lavan anotarod. So he separated 3 days between him and Jacob was shepherding the sheep of Lavan's remaining flock. Rashi says, Haru Ochabahen. This is the worst ones amongst them. That he was separating the worst ones amongst them. Rashi says, Hacholot v'akorot, the sick and the barren ones, she'enan ela shirayim, they're nothing but the remainders. O son Masarli, those Lavan gave over to him. I'll just do one more verse just to show you how bizarre it is. Hold on one second. Okay, so what do we have here? So it says, the next verse is, Vayikacho Yaakov makal livneh. Jacob took a makal, a stick, livneh lach v'luz armon. This is a moist stick. Well, we have to see. Makal livneh is a livneh is a type of tree. It's called poplar. Isn't that a street here? Poplar Street? Meaning, livneh, exactly. Very good, Binyamin. But Poplar Street, isn't that where, does Yaakov live on Poplar? So this is it. This is why Yaakov lives on Poplar Street, because Yaakov takes the poplar tree. Very, 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 I never even realized that. Somebody text Yaakov and tell him this unbelievable new thing that we discovered. So he takes for him a poplar tree that's moist, the luz, and luz is basically a hazel tree and an armon, a chestnut tree. And he peeled white strippings in them, again, levanot, machashof halavan asher al maklos, laying bare the white of the rods that were on the sticks. Hello there, Eliezer. Okay. We're almost there for the minion. They'll be here in a minute. Okay, so let's just do this Rashi, then we'll stop and we'll say the Tehillim. So what is going on here? So it says here, okay, perfect. It says here, Rashi says, the poplar tree. I don't understand this. Eitzu, this is a tree, and its name is poplar. Fine. And shuavan, which is white. Lach is moist. Luz is hazel. And he took a rod of hazel and chestnuts, and basically he stripped it down and made it white, exposing the whiteness of the stick when he peeled it. Okay. I mean, basically what Yaakov is going to do, which is so strange, he's going to have the sheep mate in front of it, but it's going to be, the science here is very hard to understand. Very, very hard. But let us stop in Mincha now. We'll stop the recording. Shkoyach, just to remind